I'm delighted to welcome in our midst Guru Vishaka Hari. Thank you so much, Namaskaram, and welcome to the Bombay Management Association. If I might hasten to tell you, he's joining us all the way from Srirangam in Tamil Nadu. So it's going to be a very delightful journey. We went to London and we are back to our good old Tamil Nadu, and we have with us Guru Srimati Vishaka Hari. She's going to share with us some inputs and her own wisdom on how we can have effective people management practices, learning from the ancient Indian wisdom. And I'm taking a line from what Dhruv was telling us so importantly. He said, we need to move towards a relationship based economy. I think we have too much worried about economies based on profitability, corporate performance, and so on. And he's given a wonderful stepping stone, which Guru Vishaka Hari, I'm confident, will give us some more wisdom about. That is relationship based management or people management. She is very popular internationally as a Harikatha exponent. But let me tell you, much before all that, she is a gold medalist in the Chartered Accountancy program for her outstanding performance in the direct taxation area. A topper of BCom, and also was ranked nationally third rank in the final CA examination. I wonder if you're getting confused whether we are going to have a session related to finance and accounts, but I can assure you she's going to give us a lot of wisdom on how we can develop effective people management practices learning from Indian wisdom. Her gurus were very, very eminent people like Lalgudi Jayaraman sir, Sri Krishna Premi sir, and Sri Hari sir himself. And over a period of time, she has excelled in delivering discourses and harikatha in various aspects of wisdom that we can accumulate and put to practice. Awarded by the Tamil Nadu government with the Kalaimamani Award, also a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Bharati Vidya Bhavan, the MS Subbalakshmi Eminent Award for the Best Eminent Seven Women of India by the Shanmukananda Sabha at Mumbai itself are very small accolades if I were to describe Guru Vishaka Hari. She's traveled across the world and has enthralled audiences with her wisdom and the enthusiasm with which she shares her knowledge. She is very, very passionate about working for helping special kids, supports a lot of orphanages, helps children in distress, including for medical treatment, and, as we rightly say, is a wonderful human being herself. Thank you so much, Guru Vishaka. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and may I request you to bestow your wisdom onto all of us. Thank you very much.
Namaskaram to one and all. Very happy to be participating in today's webinar series conducted by the Bombay Management Association. I'm myself wondering why I'm here because Professor Mani ji told so many aspects about chartered accountancy and finance and accounts. It's been years and years, almost 2 decades since I have forgotten everything of it. So, but rather, what interested me is today's topic is not just managerial concepts, but how to learn managerial concepts from ancient Indian wisdom. And India always continues to inspire me, and that vibrant Bharatadesha is so beautiful that we have astonishing facts to reiterate and tell us again and again that we need not look up to any other person or any other country, or we need not look up to the West to learn something new from them. It's already there in our roots, in our ancient Indian heritage. So today's theme is not just effective people management, but it is effective people management from ancient Indian wisdom. And so I think the nexus comes in the latter half of the topic. And at the outset, I would like to admit that I'm no good person regarding managerial concepts. But when I was just going through the beautiful scriptures, the Ramayana and the Bhagavad and the Mahabharata, regarding this topic, just out of interest, because every topic you can be assured that the seers, yesteryear seers and saints have talked about it in detail. It's just about which person wants to take what out of the Indian scriptures. So there is a lot of information about effective people management in the Ramayana, in the Bhagavad, and in the Mahabharata. That is really interesting to us. And we would be surprised to read it shloka wise, authoritative. See, we can just go on and say, we can just give any particular detail and then say, this comes here in Ramayana, this comes here in Mahabharata, or this comes in Bhagavad. But what authenticity? Here, there is this beautiful chapter 100 of Ayodhya Kanda, which is called the Kachit Sarga. In the Ayodhya Kanda of sage Valmiki, the Kachit Sarga beautifully gives all the managerial concepts related to people management. So today's topic, of course, this is a very, very tough topic. People managing people, you can manage accounts, you can manage finance, you can manage, or even crisis management, disaster management, you can do, pandemic management, you can do. But people management is very tough, because basically the difference is everything else is non-living. But managing people is managing real living people, living beings with so many emotions, with so many complexities, with so many sensitivities. And that becomes tough and more tougher in the present circumstances, because people are touch me not. They are so sensitive. How do we handle people in the present situation, in the present day circumstances? So that is really a very interesting topic. In the Ramayana, we not only can quote example of Sri Rama's rule or Bharata's rule, right from King Dasharatha's rule, you can give an example of how effectively he handled people, not only associations or organizations, an entire kingdom. He was a Chakravarti, an emperor, not just a king. He handled kingdoms after kingdoms. So how could he do it? Yata Raja Tata Prajaha, it is said. Yata Raja Tata Prajaha. As is the king, so are the followers, so are the subjects. As is the leader, so are the people who follow the particular leader. So leaders shape the community and organization. But how do we handle the people? That is the topic, people, effective people management. As a king, actually, Dasharatha followed monarchy, right? So the entire system was not democracy, but one of monarchy. So before him was Aja Maharaja. The whole Ikshvaku dynasty followed the monarchy system. So he could have very well called all his people and said, after me, I declare my son Rama to be the king after me. He will be the legal heir, he will be the successor, and this is it. But he did not do that. He would not have been an effective leader if he had done that. Dasharatha ruled for so many long years. And the secret behind it was he effectively handled all his citizens and people. How did he do that? He called for a sadas, he called for an assembly. He placed the proposal that he would like to crown the eldest son as the young crown prince, as the Yuvaraja. And he asked the people to express their views and suggestions. He says, I want to retire. I personally believe that my eldest son, Rama, would suit the throne. He would be the right heir. What do you feel? And then it's almost like democracy. Ipola number democracy in solely monarchy varthuk badla, monarchy in solely democracy is much better, right? So it's almost like democracy. So he said, I would like to place before you this proposal. People who object, you can object. What is your suggestion? What is your feeling? And in that August assembly, all the people shouted with all their rigor and so happy they were. They applauded and said, Ichamohi Mahabagum. We all desire that Rama to come as the next king. So the first point that we need to learn from Dasharatha's reign, from sage Valmiki's version of Ramayana, is that to manage people, we first need to listen to them. We first need to pay attention to what they really want from us. We have to listen to their opinions and suggestions. Similarly, Rama, Tyagaraja Swami, I'm used to this style of singing and doing the katha, which is called Hari Katha. So always what strikes me first is the song. Tyagaraja Swami, in one of his compositions, he says, Rama was the leader right from the ant, for the ant to the Trimurtis, to Brahma. Shimalo, Brahma, Shiva Keshava, Dulalo, Prema Mira, Melagochun, David Ruduva, China Sita, Ramananu, Brovara. Vema Kalo Kaviramananu Brovara. Shimala, he was the leader not only for the citizens of Ayodhya, he was the leader for right from the ant to Shiva Keshavadi Brahmadulalu. For all the Trimurtis, he was the leader. How? Prema Mira. How can you effectively manage people? Through prema mira, through love, not through terror or trepidation, not through fear or fright. So effective people management, all our ancient scriptures give this basic philosophy of managing people through love. People should not feel that they are being managed. If they feel that they are being under somebody, then that kind of resentment comes. And all that other complexes, that person is superior, I am inferior. It's not that kind of cooperation, that kind of unity, and that kind of kudumbatva. An office must be an extended family. An association must be an extended office. And the state must be an extended associations. And the country must be an extended states. And the whole world must be extended nations. So that is the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That way, the whole world can be managed by a single leader. That was during Ambarisha's time. He was managing people of all continents. We are talking of effective people management in an association or in a particular, maybe a company or in a particular organization. But there was King Ambarisha who ruled over the Saptadvipa, Saptadvipadipati. He was ruling all over the world. How? Same concept. Karpari Rama Viranai Allal Matrum Karparo Purpa Mudala Pulyerum Badi Bondrinriye. Tyagaraja Swami echoes the feeling of Namalvar. Alvar says, Pulyerum Badi Bondrinriye. Everybody was mesmerized. They were not managed. They were not just guided. They were mesmerized by Narpal Ayodhiyil Valum Sharasharam Mutravum Narpal Kuitanan Nanmuganar Petranatule. You can observe that here also Namalvar in this Pasuram he says Yerumbadi Nanmuganar. From the ant to Brahma. Tyagaraja Swami says Chimalo Brahmalo. From the ant to Brahma, he did effective people management through love, through prema. Krishna managed 5 lakh herdsmen at Gokula when he was a 7-year-old child. How do you think this is possible? Kwa saptahayano balaha. He was just 7-year-old when he said, Appa, Nand Baba, band karo, sab band karo, all this Indra puja, sab band karo. Govardhan ji ke puja karo. Do the puja for Govardhan ji. And you won't believe, all the people automatically they nod their heads and said, yes, we'll all do that. We'll all do that. We will do the puja for Govardhan mountain and not for anything else. Yes, he said. All of them say yes. How is that possible? How is that really possible? How do you think all the people will listen to a 7-year-old child? Won't they say, this is just a 7-year-old child's prattle, blabbering something? No, because he was Premavatara. He is a Premamurti by the love of people towards all his people. Right from his childhood, he could manage everything like a sport. That is why we call it Krishna Leela. We call it Krishna Leela. We don't say Krishna's management technique. All these are jargons sometimes. And sometimes the jargon itself creates a problem for us instead of solving the problems. So here Krishna managed a whole world war in Kurukshetra without lifting a single ayudha, without lifting a single weapon. Nirayudha Paniya ஒரு பூரா யுத்தத்தையும் மேனேஜ் பண்ணார். How do you think this is possible? Just through silent observation. Just through silent observation. Sometimes you need to learn that you will be the most effective manager when you remain silent and observe. Just listen. It's the opposite for Ravana. So many people told Ravana, Kumbhakarna, his brother himself, told the Ravana that the whole land is going to get devastated because of Ravana's single faulty act. And another brother, Vibhishana, cajoled him, consoled him, warned him of the dire consequences. Mandodari, his own wife, pleaded with him, beseeched him. His own minister, Malyavan, beseeched him, counseled him. But Ravana, though you call him Ravaneshwara as the king of whole Lanka, he did not have a listening ear. 10 தலை இருக்கு 20 காது இருக்கு, but the ears should listen, no? 20 years he had, 20 years and 10 heads, but none of the ears had the listening capacity. So an effective manager should listen to what the other person says. So that is what we read through all this Bhagavad or Mahabharat or Ramayana. But the most important point, as I said right at the beginning, was I wanted to highlight chapter 100 in Ayodhya Kanda. The number itself specifies, emphasizes how important actually this sarga is. In Ramayana, we call it as sargas and not adhyayas. So in Ramayana, the 100th sarga is a beautiful Gita. We just logged in 5 minutes earlier and I was surprised to see a young gentleman from London talking about Bhagavad Gita, Ashtavakra's Gita, and so many other Gitas. Of course, we have Uddhava Gita. We have different Gitas, and this is Rama Gita. Rama Gita, you can possibly call it as Rama Gita, beautifully gives the managerial concepts regarding planning, regarding delegation, regarding accountability, regarding integrity, everything that a person needs to know to manage an association or an organization. Rama teaches Bharata so beautifully without instructing him. See, it is a very crucial meeting between the two brothers, Bharata and Rama. When does this happen? At Chitrakuta. At Chitrakuta, where Bharata comes crying all the way and pleads with Rama to accept the Samrajya of Ayodhya. And it is at that time that Rama looks at Bharata. Bharata is also dressed in the barks of tree and he is also wearing the Jatabharam. He's really shocked. Now, according to Rama, Bharata is not just his younger brother. According to Rama, Bharata is a king. Now, Rama has to teach Bharata managerial concepts because he has to manage a whole kingdom. But as an elder brother, he can teach. But as a citizen, now Rama himself becomes a citizen if Bharata becomes the king. So as a citizen, he cannot advise a king. So beautifully, he uses this concept of questioner method to teach the managerial concepts regarding leadership of people management. Rama teaches Bharata in Ayodhya Kanda Sarga 100. So instead of saying, Bharata, I hope you're treating the people well. I hope you're paying the employees. Instead of saying pay the employees well, speak only the truth. Be very honest. Instead of giving instructions, he says, are you doing this, Bharata? Are you doing that? I hope you're doing this. And I hope you're doing that. This is why that sarga itself is called Kachit sarga. Kachit means the questioner method. So a very polite method where instead of instructing, I think nowadays people actually prefer this method rather than the Raja Samhita, rather than saying do this and do that. Then the whole organization collapses because of the terror and that fear and fright. But here Rama says, so let us go to the managerial concepts where Rama says, Bharata, I hope you are respecting your economists and receiving advice from them properly. So, Ishvastravara Sampannam Arthashastra Visharadam. Always receive the proper advice from your economists and finance people to handle the people well. So, I hope you're doing this. And I hope you have delegated, see, management, people management. What is people management? Delegating work to people, planning with your people, with your team, effectively executing it. And here Rama says, I hope, Bharata, that you are delegating your work to the right people at the right time and you are giving them a proper time to execute the delegated work. This is in the 16th verse where he says, Kachidatma Samashuraha Shrutavanto Jitendriyaha Kulinas Chengitagnyascha Kritaste Tata Mantrinaha Kachin Mukya Mahatsveva Madhyameshu Cha Madhyamaha. Regarding delegation, very, very important work. You cannot delegate to people who are below average. So in the 26th verse, combined with the 15th, he says, I combined with the 16th, he says, I hope you are delegating important jobs to very superior people, that is, who are really intelligent. You don't classify people as superior and inferior, but for the purpose of the execution of the work, superior jobs should be delegated to very efficient people, mediocre to average people. They might be very good in other things, but here regarding the efficiency, small jobs have to be given to people who are really under average. So here he says, Kachin Mukya Mahatsveva Madhyameshu Cha Madhyamaha. Madhyama work must be given to Madhyama people. Jaganyatu Jaganyeshu Bhritya Karmasu Yojita. Otherwise, there is no point in just groaning and murmuring and moaning that this work has not been done. 3 weeks target was given, still it is not achieved because you have not delegated it to the proper person. So then Rama says, Bharata, I hope you are receiving the right advice from the right person at the right time. Just like how he says, delegating the right work to the right persons, here he says, are you receiving the right counseling at the right time from the right person? Kachin mantrasenaikaha. This is 17th shloka. Mantro vijayamulam hi rajyam bhavati raghava susamvrito mantradharaihi amatei shastra kovidaihi. Mantro vijayamulam, the secret to success. Vijayamulam. Secret to success is proper counseling. Mantro Vijayamulam. You must receive the right counseling. Not like how Ravana received counseling from Shurpanaka. Shurpanaka says, go for Yuddha and go and kidnap this Sita. Ravana also received counseling, but from Shurpanaka. So the counseling must be received at the right time from the right person to win any challenging situation. And they must be politically well versed, he says. Shastra Kovidaihi. And then Rama continues. After delegation, after counseling, he goes on to the next managerial concept of people management, planning. How do you plan your projects? Do you call all the people in your team and plan? Or do you choose some people in your team and say, you come, you come, you come. I think you are better. How do we plan? That is in the 19th verse of the 100th Sarga. He says, Kachin mantriyase naikaha, kachin bahuvissaha, kachitte mantrito mantraha, rashtram na paridhavati. Never plan alone. If you plan alone, everything collapses, then the whole fault comes on your head. It will fall on your head. And if you plan alone, the stress is also more. But you should not plan with many people. Just don't take one person into your planning committee. But don't take too many people also. If you receive too many angles, so you need to know two or more angles, many angles, various angles. Yes, understood. But if we keep on adding people to our planning committee, then the job is as well as not done. And the vela mudiyadu. Because they will say, don't do this, we can do that way, we can do this. Too many cooks spoil the broth and solva, yeah. And I hope you're not planning with too many people. I hope you're not planning alone. And I hope you are not letting out your plans before they are finalized. So I'm referring to this 100 Sarga and also using the interpretation of my revered brother-in-law, Dr. Ranganji, English interpretation of all these verses. So this is the base material. So here he says, before the plans get concretized, I hope you do not reveal those plans. Kachitte mantrito mantro rashtram na paridavati. And in effective people management, what is very important is you must be able to get the maximum results out of your people with minimum effort. Lagu moolam mahodayam. 20th verse. Kachidattam vinischitya lagu moolam mahodayam kshipramarabase kattum nadirgayasi raghava. So you must be able to get maximum results with minimum effort and in the minimum time possible without delay. You cannot go on giving time. You should specify a target time, but that must not create stress. In today's circumstances, the problem is of stress. Everybody is stressed out. Why? Either they don't enjoy their work or too much work is given in too little time. When you enjoy your work, you don't get stressed out. How much ever you work, you don't get stressed out. But Bhagavad Gita again says, do your karma, but don't get attached to the karma and become a workaholic. Indians, we can see a lot of Indians being workaholics. That is why people all over the world prefer Indians, because they are workaholics. They don't want family. They don't want relationships. They don't want to even party out. They don't want to go out. They don't want any social festivities. If you give them work, Indians will go on working and working and working. That is why the retirement age from the 65s, it came to 60 and then 58. Now 40s, everybody wants to retire because of the stress. So never give too much work in too little time. And you should never take into account an advice given by 1,000 fools. Instead, go by the advice given by one intelligent person. Just because 1,000 people are giving the same advice doesn't mean that it is right. It might not be right. So here he says, choose your people. Kachit sahasrana murkhanam ekam ichchasi panditam. One wise man is better than 1,000 fools. So it doesn't mean that you need to employ 1,000 people or 300 people or 400 people to do a work. One wise man is enough, because lagu moolam mahodayam, you can get maximum results from that particular person. But very importantly, he says, Bharata, I hope you are paying your employees for effective people management. The crux is, hope you are paying the salaries to your personnel without delay, and hope you are paying them sufficiently. So this is the important verse here, where he says, Kachit balasya bhaktam cha vetanam cha yatochitam samprapta kalam datavyam dadasi na vilambase. Never make it late. You have to pay them properly. Only then the people will listen to you. You have to pay them sufficiently and you have to pay them without delay. If you don't pay them sufficiently, that will lead to corruption. Sufficient pay pannalum corruption varudha, adu vera next point. But here, in Rama's kalam, no, so that is Treta Yuga Kala. So if you pay people sufficiently, they won't become disinterested. They will be interested in their work and they will not find other ways to earn money. So he says, Bharata, I hope you're doing this. And Bharata, importantly, I hope you do not have any person in your team under you, that person who keeps constantly insulting his employees, constantly hankering after power, constantly keeps criticizing for everything and anything. You need criticism, but not constant criticism. Here he says, I hope you are keeping those people in check, those people who constantly insult their employees. So that is the 25th verse. Eko api amatyo medhavi shuro daksho vichakshanaha rajanam rajamatram va prapayen mahatim shriyam kachin mukya mahatsveva. So that person who keeps constantly insulting is here in the Bhakta Vetana Yor Vritaha Bhattuhu Kupyanti Dushyanti So Anartaha Sumahan Smritaha. So you completely Britya Sandoshane Ratam. Some people take interest. Britya Sandoshane Ratam. They find happiness constantly criticizing their employees. So if the employee comes with a very beautiful suggestion, that's not good. You can work further. Constantly Britya Sandushane Ratam, the 30th verse. So you have to keep those people in check. That is your people, effective people management. And you also have to honor and award people who are skilled, brave, and experienced. That is one way of encouraging people. You have to encourage them. So Vetanam cha yatochitam kachit balasya bhaktam cha samprapta kalam datavyam. You have to honor them, award them, give awards and honor and appreciate the people, personnel who are really doing well. That way too you can manage people effectively. And then he says, a manager, Bharata, must be really well dressed. He must have that charismatic personality. This is the 52nd verse, 52nd shloka, where he says, Kachid darshayate nityam. You are going to face so many hundreds and thousands of people every day. You must be well dressed. You must have a good looking personality. You must be charismatic and you must behave in such a way that your employees neither disrespect you nor fear you. Neither disrespect you. You cannot be too social. Otherwise, what happens is it leads to disrespect. But you cannot really be a terror too. Then people will start fearing you. So maintain that line of balance, Rama says, to effectively manage people. And very, very importantly, the 45th verse. Here he says, people under you should always be kept happy, vibrant, energetic. And for that, towards that purpose, the organization has to be graced with social festivities so that people will be energetic and vibrant. Prahishtanaranarikaha, 45th verse. Prahishtanaranarikaha samajotsava shobitaha sukrishta seema pashuman himsa viparivarjitaha. The first Purvarda says Prahishtanaranarikaha. 43rd verse, 43rd shloka says Kachit samuditam sphitam ayodhyam parirakshasi jitendriyaihi mahotsahaihi vritam aryaihi sahasrashah. So you need to conduct a lot of utsavas, mahotsahaihi. They must be really energetic and vibrant so that people with happy mindset will work for you. It's not just looking after the physical well-being. You must also look after the mental well-being. But in today's present circumstances, I heard that there is a lot of festivity going on, partying, but in the wrong sense. Here, Ramachandra Mahaprabhu says, specifically he says, Jitendriya is social festivities, but it must go towards conquering the sense organs, not indulgence, but in conquering your sense organs in the right manner. People must be trained to be self-restrained. People must be taught karma yoga. People must be taught Vedanta so that they work, they get their salaries properly, but their concentration and focus is not only on the check that they're going to receive on the first of the next month, but their focus is completely on the customer's satisfaction. So all this is given beautifully in this sarga. So we think ancient people, Indian people were all uncivilized and they knew nothing at all, nothing about managerial concepts, and it was West who taught or brought into the system delegation or planning or treating people. Everything is there in the Ramayana, everything is there in the Bhagavad Gita, it's there in the Karma Yoga, it's there in the Vedanta. So here he says, in fact, Yudhishthira's management, here we have taken just the Kachit Sarga alone today's, for today's people, effective people management. But there are so many points in Mahabharata as well. I wanted to give you the quote, the shloka as well as the meaning, so that it is authentic enough to know that yes, managerial concepts regarding people management, regarding financial management, Arthashastram, whole Arthashastram is written by Chanakya, Kautilya, economics, everything. All our yesteryears, seers and sages and rishis have written everything. All that we need to know is realize that Indian heritage, Indian culture, Indian tradition has all the concepts. Ourselves, we have it, and we do not know that everything is there within ourselves. And we look up to somebody else and some other, some Western author, if he writes all this, then it is so new to us. But the point is, they would have read all this. They would have read all this and they would give their version, and we will look up to them. Here, it is beautiful. Strategic leadership. Rama concludes the Kachit Sarga saying that all your people under you, your ministers or your planning committee, your execution committee, everything, they must be totally unbiased. They must love you and you must manage through love. Right at the beginning, we gave a lot of examples of how you manage through love. That is the best management technique. And the people will effectively get managed on their own. It seems in Japan, you don't need supervisors or controllers at all. They themselves do all their work because they're all totally focused in work. That is what our Karma Yoga says. We don't need managers or supervisors. When you really love the work, when you really love the person or the company or the organization for whom you're working, you don't need a manager or a supervisor at all. The work automatically gets done. So here he says, your organization, the expenditure should be only towards good causes. Only then your people will respect you. If you work for something which is not going to benefit the society, then all the employees, the work, all that they put in is going to be of no use, even though they work for 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So the 56th shloka, here he says, whatever you do, your expenditure should be completely towards Devatate cha pitrate brahmana abhyagateshu cha yodheshu mitravargeshu kachit gacchati te vyayaha. Vyayaha, your expenditure should be towards the soldiers, towards your guests, towards your friends, towards your unexpected visitors, towards the social causes, towards education, towards medical help. Whatever you do not never discriminate between the rich and poor. Study the situation carefully whenever a crisis happens, whenever a trial or a tribulation occurs, and then whatever you do, the benefits that you really get out of it, share it with all your people, and then the enjoyment, that mutual sharing will, that Paramananda will become multifold. That is the 76th shloka, where he says, Kachit swadu kritam bhojyam eko nashnasi raghava, Kachit asham samanebhyo mitrebhya samprayachasi. So a wise manager thus acts properly regarding delegation or planning or execution, or regarding his charismatic personality, or regarding the benefits that he gets. And such a person, he completes the sarga saying, such a person will get released from this mortal world because he is working for the benefit of the nation and benefit of the world in total. Avapya kritsnam vasudham yatavaditashchutaha swargam upaiti vidwan. That particular efficient person, avapya kritsnam vasudham, that person will get swargam upaiti. He will be released from this mortal world. And thus, Rama teaches Bharata without even Bharata knowing that he's being taught. He says, I hope you're doing this and I hope you're doing that. And I think with that, we come to the end of my talking and you listening. So this will be the other way around. The next 15-20 minutes, I'm told that it would be a questionnaire, Kachit Sarga again, interaction between the audience and myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All we can say is this was the most unusual experience where we had a melodious lecture. We've always heard of enjoyable lectures, boring lectures, interesting lectures, but here is a classic case of a melodious lecture. I have so many requests in the chat box that why didn't we ask you to sing and recite shlokas and instead asked you to speak? But I guess that's the pleasure of learning from somebody whom I rightly introduced is an exceptional management professional and of course is a guru by herself in the field of music and Harikatha. Thank you so much, Guru Vishakha Hari. It has been an enthralling experience for us and many questions are here from the audience and I'm going to choose some of them so that we can gain some more from your wisdom. I think one of the most important questions, which is true in current scenario, you mentioned so much about the wonderful principles of management. So many in the audience have learned management from international authors. And if I name some of them, Kuntz and O'Donnell, Robbins, Peter Drucker. But today we learned management lessons from the Ramayana, particularly. And it was indeed so very inspiring. In today's situation of work from home, how do we really keep the team together, happy, energized, productive? Would you please share some of your wisdom?
Wonderful question. So working from home, completely different scenario. How do we keep the people really vibrant? Just as what you are doing, BMA is conducting Friday webinar series. I think it is towards this venture, right? Towards this initiative, you want to keep people connected. You want to keep people motivated. You want to keep people interested in learning and growth, not only physically motivating them, mental energy. So food is not just food for the stomach, food for the mind, food for the soul. So I think when you work online, you need to conduct such webinars. Every organization, association needs to connect people in the same organization, association, and give that kind of working together, because people will miss each other, their friends, and that working atmosphere. It's always at home. So you have to keep the pressure cooker and then look into the laptop. Then you cut vegetables and then you look into the laptop. It's just juggling this way and that way. So keep people connected through online sessions like this. Though you work from home, this mentally motivates people, right? So this is one way. And then if possible, of course, in Bombay, it's not possible right now. If possible, in other states, you can make a small gathering and then discuss all this right through live. That live experience is totally different. hundreds of online experiences cannot give one live experience. So maybe we can meet live at least once in a while and then discuss that meeting in person gives that bondage and that affection. So I think all this and taking the Gita or some management lessons every week from our ancient scriptures, that is really interesting what BMA has done. So giving different topics, I think all these are some of the initiatives that we can do even from home.
All right. Thank you so much. I think that was a very nice response. Could you also share with us how we should cope with stress? You did mention that stress is becoming increasingly a part of our lives. You also suggested some ways of overcoming stress. I think our participants want some more wisdom from you on how to cope with stress.
Stress enters when we have expectations. So rather, not expecting something helps us to get relieved of that stress. But how to get to that point of not expecting? Because, of course, we have expectations from each and everybody in the family, in the office, in the company. How to manage that stress? Just unclutch, detached attachment, as Krishna says. So when we get too attached to a person or to a file or to a project or to something, then that element of stress comes in because fear comes in. Stress is related completely to fear. So if we need to be fearless, that detached attachment, I would always say, refer to that non-stick cooking tawa. You make the dosa, still the maav does not stick on to that non-stick. That is detached attachment. The dosa is also ready, tawa doesn't stick. So that way, we can be happy, at least get rid of some of the stress. One is don't expect too much. Two, detach yourself from that particular thing that really gives you stress. Unclutch. And for that, we really need to have hope and faith in a supreme being. And that is why surrender is the ultimate resort. Sharanagati. All the Shastras, including the Bhagavad Gita, end with Sharanagati. So if we surrender to God, He will take care. Nothing is in our hands. We are not the doers. We are just instruments meeting today or talking today or listening today. Nothing is, we feel it's all planned and we are planning it and we are executing it, but it's all destined to happen. That way, some kind of Vedanta, Jnanam and Bhakti together will definitely help us overcome stress. So Bhakti, Jnana and Sharanagati.
All right. Bhakti, Jnana, Sharanagati are words worth remembering. And I think the example you gave of detached attachment will certainly appeal to a lot of people as we head towards the dinner time. But yes, dinner is still a couple of hours away. I move on to the next question. In India, we come across the Valmiki Ramayana, we come across the Tulsi Ramayana. As laymen that we are, could you tell us what is the difference between the two?
There are a lot of places where Tulsi Das differs from Valmiki because his times were different. So, for example, Valmiki never talks about the meeting of Rama and Sita before marriage. But Tulsidas wants Sita to meet Rama before marriage because his time was different, right? He comes after Valmiki. So he talks of the meeting of Rama and Sita in the Upavan. Similarly, he gives his own version. You cannot call it fiction because maybe Rama played with him in his heart that way. So you cannot call it wrong. It's completely up to the bhava and the bhakti of Tulsidas. Valmiki's Ramayana is the as such whatever happened during Rama's times. Here too in Valmiki Ramayana there are descriptions. Similarly, in Tulsidas, there are some places where Tulsidas says, Rama, the dust of your feet touched a stone and she became Ahalya. What if it touches Guha's boat? That boat is also made of material only. So, like that stone turning into Ahalya, what if this Guha's boat turns into some other person? So, all this is imaginary and kalpana, but it's beautiful because Tulsidas' Doha expresses more of bhakti, and Valmiki's core is portraying Rama as a Manushya Avatara, as a human being. Tulsidas uh, 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 actually portrays Rama as Bhagwan rather than a Manushya. So that is the basic difference between the two authors.
Wonderful. Great to hear that. I think that's a revelation for many people. You did mention that have very less expectations is one of the best ways to move towards happiness and to reduce stress. You would fully agree with me that today we are living in a fast food world where people want instant gratification. Under those circumstances, what advice would you have for youngsters to change for the better?
There is a lot of awareness today regarding our own country and that pride in our country. I think it's coming back. So that instant gratification, in fact, everybody wants even instant moksha. Moksham kuda instant irukonu. The instant gratification is a lot of the influences from the media, I think, because media advertisements, the way they portray all this kinds of instigates the senses. That is why whether it is in the Ramayana or the Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavat or Mahabharat, the concentration is on jitendriyatvam. Self control only will make you more stronger and wiser and mature. So youngsters should realize that more the control they have over their senses, the healthier they are going to live, the happier they are going to live. Stress is going to get reduced when they constrain and restrain their sense organs. Very simple example: you want an ice cream right now, you go and eat it. You end up in a throat pain or a sore throat. That is praise. What is very nice in the beginning will usually end up being devastating in the end. That is called praise. The opposite is stress. You have to drink a kashayam or some other concoction. It's really horrible to taste, but finally it gives a very healthy benefit. That is called stress. So today's youngsters concentrate on praise more than stress. If we turn it to stress rather than praise, then all the youngsters will benefit both in physical health as well as in mental health. And they will have a happy family, happy married life, and good relationship with your in-laws and their parents. There are so many people who are not having a good relationship even with their parents. Why to talk of the husband or the wife or the child? Even with the parents, once in a month calling the father or the mother and saying how are you, or a happy Mother's Day or a happy Father's Day. That is not our Bharata Desha's kalachara. So youngsters today should respond more to that Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Titi Devo Bhava. Get back to the ancient roots. That will give them a lot of benefit. It will give us, I consider myself too as a youngster, though you keep calling me Guru Vishakha Hari, I don't like that name. Nobody can be others Guru. Otherwise, everybody is everybody's Guru. Because Krishna says, I'm learning from everything around me, even from the insect, the spider. I learn even from the spider. If Krishna says that, and who are we to call ourselves gurus? So I think all of us are sishyas.
All right, but I would still venture to say that you are a guru among the sishyas. So we continue our discussion by moving on to the next question, and that pertains to the current scenario. We talk so much about gender equality, gender diversity, gender biases. This is very commonly practiced and discussed in corporate India. Would you share some of your views based on ancient Indian wisdom?
Okay, I really don't know what happens in the corporate world right now for the gender inequality or equality. So without knowing, I cannot tell something as if I know. So in the ancient wisdom, that part alone I will tell you. Definitely, women have been given the equal In fact, sometimes greater importance than men during the Vedic times, right from the Vedic times. So it is not as if India was putting down women and some people had to come from somewhere else to uplift women in India. No, not at all. In the Vedic times, we have so many Vedic women rishikas and acharyas like Vishwavara, Apala, Hosha. We know of only Gargi or Maitreyi. We keep saying Gargi and Maitreyi, Gargi and Maitreyi. There were so many people. My revered father-in-law, Shri Krishna Premi Swamigal, Sri Anna, has written about 100 women, sample 100 women of yesteryears who were all empowered women in their own fields. Some in weaponry, in archery, in horse riding, in we think we're driving cars. Women are driving cars only in the present situations and circumstances, maybe some 2 or 3 decades before. But Kaikeyi was driving the chariot for Dasharatha during Ramayana. Satyabhama was driving the chariot for Krishna during the Vada of Hiranyaksha and Narakasura for Narakasura. So women were driving, women were riding horses, women fought. There were military women in military like Vadrimati and Mudgalani during the Vedic period. It was during the medieval period that all this gender inequality, gender bias, everything took over during the medieval period because of the Mughal invasions. So they had to protect the women from the Mughal invaders. So they preferred rather not sending women to schools and all that entered in. And a lot of other social inequalities entered during the medieval period because of the foreign invasions. So ancient is really ancient. We need to go really ancient and not check into the, say, the last 1,000-year period. You have to go before that. So in fact, Ramanuja Charya, when he wrote his bhashyams or treatises, it seems he used to ask Pura Talwar, his disciple, to go and show it to his wife, Andalamaya, and ask her if it was right or if it needed changes. And in fact, Adi Shankara, the judgment was given by a woman. So even during those Acharya Kalam, the Adi Shankara or Madhva or Ramanuja, that time also the Acharyas, the founders of the great Advaita, Advaita and Visishta Advaita philosophy, they themselves respected women so well. So there is no question of inequalities during the really ancient Indian period. All those came in between because of the foreign invasions.
Perfect. And I think the world is slowly moving on to a more equitable and equal treatment, and that's certainly a wonderful thing for all of us. Would you share with us what would be the significant lesson, maybe one lesson each, for all of us from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, because these are considered the greatest epics of India. So what would be one single lesson from each of them as per your view as the most important?
Ramayana teaches us not to covet others' wives. Mahabharata teaches us not to covet others' property. So Paradhana and Parabhama. So don't desire others' wives. Don't desire others' properties. Paradhana mula koraguno lula madhikaraga baligi kadubu nimba tiriginate dudukku. These are the two faults. So Ramayana focuses on that. Mahabharata focuses on this.
Okay, so effectively, don't crave for something which is not yours.
Yes, exactly.
What you are.
Don't crave for something which is not yours, and which is yours will definitely come to you.
Wonderful.
That which is yours will definitely come to you. Whoever stops it.
Wonderful. I am now handing over to Indrapal Singh ji. Go ahead, sir. Indrapal ji is our former president and a very senior corporate executive with 40 years standing and a great learner himself. Over to you, Indrapal ji.
Vishakha ji, my question was about this forthcoming Women's International Day. We are finally following the foreign tradition. So what do you think we should do in India? I mean, one day celebrating would really help us, or there's something more we need to do? Your views, please.
Ji, namaskar. I personally feel every day is a Women's Day, Ji. Every every day is a Women's Day. Without the woman or the mother or the wife or the daughter giving you a tiffin or a lunch or a dinner, would the man be able to do something at all?
No.
Or without her motivation, that is why Shiva needs Shakti. That is why Narayana needs Lakshmi. That is why Brahma needs Saraswati. Even the gods need their concerts. So I personally feel in Indian tradition, we keep respecting women every day. That is why during the Navaratris, the whole festival is 3 days of Durga, 3 days of Lakshmi, 3 days of Saraswati. And we do Kanya Puja, we do Dampati Puja. Every Utsava is a celebration of women. Now it's Panguni Masa, that Masi and Panguni Seti, we do that Savitri Nomba, celebrating Savitri's determination and perseverance, how she won over Yamadharma Raja and brought back her husband to life. So that is a woman's day. That is Savitri's day. So every day we can have, in fact, Jhansi Rani's day, Velu Nachiyar's day, Rani Ahalyabai's day. That way, if we keep noting down their birth days, dates of birth, every day is going to be a Women's Day, according
Thank
to
you so
Indian.
much. Now I'm not going to buy my wife an expensive watch she has been asking for.
Oh no, please don't put the burden on me. You have to buy
No.
her a watch every day instead. Or buy her a beautiful Bhagavad Gita book with a good translation, or all the ancient Indian wisdom books.
Thank
Perhaps
you.
each
Yes,
day a
yes.
book, a
Okay.
beautiful gift for her.
Thank you.
I think Indrapalji, I'm not very confident, but I don't think your wife is in the same room. So God bless you.
Yes, I am there. That's why I said I'm sorry, but I have to say that I never asked for anything. God has given me enough.
I know.
Thank you so much. Namaskar. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm just going to take one more question. I know that you have agreed to be with us till 7 o'clock. We are slightly beyond time, but the enthusiasm of the questions, the participants has kept us so engaging. And therefore, I'm going to venture to ask you just one more question. If there was one advice that you would like to leave behind for all the participants, one advice for themselves and one advice for the younger generations, people in their homes. So, two bits of advice from you as a sign off gift to all of us.
I'm nobody to advise, but if at all I have to share my maybe suggest and share my opinions or views, I would say let us celebrate every day. Let us celebrate and enjoy every day. As an Indian, we have so much to learn and grow mentally, spiritually. So, not a single moment should be a dull moment in our lives. It should be Amha Nitya Diwali, Nitya Dashera. Amha Nitya Dashera, Nitya Diwali. It has to be a Nitya Mahotsava. Nityotsavot Bhavet Tesham. Nitya Shri Nitya Mangalam is the prayer that we generally say. So every day must be a day of celebration, fully vibrant, and feeding our souls and mentally keep us really spirited. That is my humble view to the audience and the viewers. And the second part is to the youngsters. What do you need to do? We need to rather go into or spend time for ourselves to really know why we are here, what is our purpose, how we can serve the society better, because we have a lot of time before us. Youngsters, I'm telling youngsters, we have the whole life
Sure.
before. So instead of wasting any moment, kshanardam api vyaktam na niyam. Even half a second must not be wasted. Learn lot of good concepts. Just because you know to read, don't read anything and everything. You should know what to read, not just how to read. Nowadays, everybody knows how to read, but what to read and what not to read. What will benefit us? That living must not be just personal identities living. It should not be totally narrowing down. From joint families, it became nuclear families. From nuclear families, it's become just one single person. And then that one single person itself will become so frustrating that we will not want to live at all. Youngsters should have a very broad mind. And then you must be able to, we are talking of people management. You must be able to manage families. We must be able to manage associations. We must be able to manage whole nations and the whole world around us. So, towards that, equip yourselves with the right kind of knowledge from the right books, from the right gurus. So, that is towards the youngsters.
Wonderful, so profound. And I'm very confident when I say this that everyone who's been here has not wasted a single minute of the last 60 minutes listening to you. Not only share so much of wisdom, also all the wonderful rendering of Shranshit slokas in such a melodious voice. It has been a treat for us, though Indrapalji said it in a different context. I would like to say that this is a wonderful way for us to set a countdown for what we call the International Women's Day. While, of course, people do talk about the pluses and minuses of doing it, I would say that let us continue to celebrate. Let's not stop celebrating on 8th of March as we always do, is the advice that you rightly gave us. On that note, may I, from the bottom of my heart, and each one of us present here, thank you so much for this inspirational session, is the least that I can say. I'll be failing in my duty if I don't acknowledge a professional colleague and a good friend, Mr. Balasubramaniam Iyer from the Reliance Industries Group, who introduced us to Guru Vishakha Hari. Thank you so much for making this happen. He unfortunately is traveling and he is on a flight and therefore is unable to join us at this given point in time, but has constantly been in touch with me during the last 2 hours. Thank you, Bala. We appreciate your efforts in this introduction and bringing Guru Vishakha Hari onto this platform. May I request everyone to put on your videos so that we have a digital photograph to capture this wonderful memory of learning that we had this evening, along with Guru Vishakha Hari. Everyone, you get a minute to put on your cameras. I must tell you, everyone has been showering the chat box with words of praise and gratitude. I'll share them with you at a later point in time. But I must tell you, everyone believes that they've spent a wonderful 2 hours here listening to you as well as to Dhruv in the earlier part of the program. May I request everybody get ready. My colleagues from the BMA Secretariat, they are also very efficient digital photographers. So they are going to capture all your smiles. Keep smiling. We have all of 5 screens over here with people coming in numbers exceeding 90 at this point in time. And there were 106 participants somewhere through the session in the middle. So everyone keep smiling to remember this wonderful learning session we had this evening. While you do that, let me tell you the next 3 programs we have in store for you. On 8th of March, we are celebrating International Women's Day, but with a difference. We are going to showcase 3 achievers, one from the corporate sector, one from the association sector, and one from the academic sector. And all we've asked them to do is to come and tell us their stories of how they achieved this pinnacle of success. All details on our website, all those members of BMA, you will get the details automatically. All guests are welcome to log into the website to get details. Next Wednesday, we have a very interesting session of how an Indian super brand was built called Kevin Care. And I'm sure everyone in those days had heard of Chick Shampoo. The managing director of Kevin Care India, Sri Ranganathan, is going to be with us next Wednesday to share his insights on how he built this super brand. Somewhere during our session, we were asking Guru Vishakha Hari also about advice to the younger generation. I'm delighted to share with you that our country has every year been producing young achievers as young as below the age of 15, who have actually done something remarkable. Next Friday, in our Young Achievers Conclave, we are showcasing 4 such young achievers. One is a master chef baker, one runs his courier company, one is a musical prodigy, and the other person is a specialist in working for environment and for governance of nations. All of them are below the age of 15. So tune in to listen to the Young Achievers next Friday. As usual, I get a thumbs up from my team that they have already captured all our smiles. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Thank you very much, Guru Vishakha Hari, and we look forward to our continued interaction. Stay safe, everybody. Stay blessed. Shubh Ratri, and have a great weekend.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.